Hello and welcome to Parallel Disney. One of the tools I use when making my Parallel Disney comparisons is Google Earth. And I also happen to have a VR rig, so I'm able to use Google Earth VR, which is actually a really neat experience, and I thought it'd be fun to share some of the cool things you can find or appreciate better from an aerial perspective. So today I'm going to use Google VR and give you a little tour of some of the fun aerial images that you can see that you can't always appreciate entirely just from a ground perspective. Today we'll be taking a look at the Disneyland Resort, and if there is interest, I'd be happy to check out some of the other Disney parks in the future. Anyways, let's go ahead and put the sun into position and let's start our tour. First off, I have to show you this really awesome hidden Mickey that is outside the park. And as far as I know, it's the only hidden Mickey that you could actually drive through. One of the things I like so much about this one is just how hidden it is. You'll really only get the chance to notice it from overhead, or if you're taking a walk on the sidewalk and wondering what all the weird curves are for, that are rather inconvenient. Next, let's make our way towards downtown Disney and look at the fun little sort of sun flaring that there is on top of the old AMC. Another really neat feature that I've never noticed until actually looking at these images from overhead is how there's this kind of vine growing all the way up downtown Disney, and the various planters along the way are actually serving as leaves. Another feature that I've noticed, and probably most people have noticed that's kind of fun, is how over the monorail station it looks like leaves are wrapping it. Yeah, this vine just keeps growing, and then when you get to this little outside area, it almost looks like a flower kind of from overhead that might be a part of the vine. More planters with the various leaf shapes, and it just keeps on going, and then at the end you see that flower fountain that looks like it's also a part of the vine. Then as we get towards the entrance, there's this neat little spiral graphic that goes over it, and you even see it at the security gates. Something interesting at the entrance, you got these sort of what look like 3 M's, and I'm going to just go ahead and pretend that they are M's and that it stands for Mickey Mouse March, because everybody's marching into the park. Over here on the opposite end, we see these 2 yellow circles, which I assume might be potential helicopter landing pads. Before really doing everything in the park, let's move a little across it and go back towards, the area behind Toontown, and take a look at this building. If I remember correctly, I think it's their casting office. But anyway, just look at how crazy the building is, and all the weird curves and shapes. But something that I really like to point out is the this zebra striping, which kind of turns into sidewalks that leads to other areas, and also goes into this sort of shrub area, and it follows the lines patterns, which I thought was really neat and worth sharing. Alright, let's go ahead and head back to the entrance. As we look at the Mickey Mouse head at the entrance of the park, we notice from above it kind of looks a little elongated. They use that same forced perspective effect, such as seeing the stop written on the street, so that it looks more normal when you're viewing at it from a low angle. Let's go ahead and mosey down Tomorrowland and see what's going on over there. The entrance always looked really cool from ground level, but from here, the rocks and the plants with all the vegetables look really cool. Another fascinating feature that I never noticed is how there are these spiraled lines that meet in the Orbitron. As we make our way past Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters and Star Tours, we see more of these lines, and also there's some circles possibly representing planets or other celestial objects. And here around the cool little rock outside of Space Mountain, there's sort of a look of a sun with more potential planets orbiting around it. Over here we find the Autopia attraction, and it's actually rather impressive looking from overhead, seeing just how far back these roads go and how many of them there are, and the way that they twist through each other. Here, as we look above Buzz Lightyear Astro Blaster, we can see the circular section that is a remnant from when it housed a Circle Vision theater. Something worth mentioning by It's a Small World is this checker pattern that's at the queue. I've never noticed it from ground levels, so I thought it was worth mentioning here. I thought the facade work in Toontown was rather interesting, so I thought I'd share it here, with how you have some building cutouts that are on top of the show building, or just the piece of mountainous terrain that is just attached to buildings that are across another street. Something that's slightly interesting, I don't know if it's just me, but this area of this sort of like gas station kind of looks like the top of a spark plug. On Tom Sawyer's Island, you can no longer go into the fort, and here we can kind of see why. It looks like they just put a building inside of it, probably for storage. On top of the Pirates of the Caribbean show building, there's actually a couple of masts for sails, and sometimes you'll see the sails actually out, but unfortunately on the street view here, the masts are sailless. Here at the junction of Adventureland as well as Main Street, we see the thatched roof convert into that of one with typical shingles. And it's very nicely hidden away by this simple tree that's kind of at the seam. At the Jungle Cruise, I just quickly wanted to show you that it is actually surprisingly close to Main Street, and I had no idea that it was basically just right there. And now for just one quick stop at California Adventure. Over here in A Bug's Land, you'll find various clovers all around that provided pretty ample shade for the area. But something that I found that was rather cool is that there's actually one lucky 4-leaf clover. I find it really cool that out of all of these clovers, you can only count 3 leaves, except for this one right here. I find it really cool that they just added one special clover. Well, that's currently all I have on this episode, and I hope you enjoyed it. Next week I'll have part 2 of Big Thunder Mountain out, and that'll show the similarities and differences that Tokyo Disneyland has compared to Disneyland and Disney World. Don't forget to like this video, and if you're new, please consider subscribing. Until next time.